Welcome to Watching the Horizon. I'm Jake. So I'm filming in my car. The RV is currently occupied. It's been kind of a warm day, and it's been a little slow. Air conditioner's having a hard time keeping up, so the missus is inside taking a nap, and I didn't want to bother her with the video. But so we've been asked from time to time why it is that we want a homestead. And it's kind of a long story. I mean, I know that I had talked previously about wanting to leave the city and how that's something that we realized we needed to do just sort of for our own mental health. The city's sort of an angry place, or at least it seemed that way for us. But why couldn't we just move to another city or just for another smaller town or something? No, we specifically want a homestead. We want to do the prepper thing. And so, it's a valid question. People ask why. And so the story, again, it goes back a couple of years ago to when we had the house. And I remember it was sort of a conversion that happened somewhat gradually, but I do recall one day I was standing on my porch doing whatever, raking leaves, who knows, but I remember seeing a code enforcement officer from the city in our neighborhood, and he was actually just a couple doors up at a house, and he was writing a ticket. Well, that house had been for sale for a really long time, and the previous owners had done a really good job of making it look good. My understanding is that it was a short sale, and so things get weird with that, and a lot of times those homes get in disrepair. But they did a really good job of making it look good. A lot of mulch, a lot of greenery, not a whole lot of plants, because obviously, it was a house that was not lived in, rather. And so they wanted to make it look good, even though no one was really going to be there to keep up the property, and they did good. So the code enforcement officer was writing a ticket because that particular house didn't have enough grass. This was a year that Colorado was experiencing some pretty severe droughts, and we were very limited on the water that we were allowed to use. And so I found it odd that here we have a code enforcement officer writing a ticket on a property that nobody lives at that looks great because it doesn't have enough grass. Well, what I didn't realize is that the property had actually been sold like a day or two before, and they must have known, or maybe it was just coincidence, but this new owner is now having to clear up all of this stuff on a property that they just bought that looks great with extra mulch and whatever. So they're going to have to tear up the yard, tear up the whole front area, because there wasn't enough percentage of grass in relationship to the whole property. I wish I had a picture to show you. Honestly, it was, like I said, it was a good looking property. But it occurs to me that we didn't even live in a homeowners association regulated neighborhood. Yet here is some guy from the city, telling us what we're allowed to do with our yard. I mean, it looked good. It wasn't like they were, putting a jungle gym in their front yard or anything like that. It wasn't crazy. It was, it was mulch. It was well maintained. It even had those fancy concrete borders around it. It was nice. And it's like, what control over our own property do we really have? Well, if you live in a city, you know that you actually have very little control over your property. Well, at least nothing that you can't do that you don't have to clear with somebody else first. Heaven forbid you get a wild hair and you just want to go do something. You got to get a permit. You got to get it cleared with the board. Maybe you got to go to city council or something stupid. At the end of the day, you just got to pay them off. Got to pay your money. And then if it's anything with any kind of structure on it, you have to get it approved. And sometimes there's extra fees and architect plans that have to get approved. And then it's got to get, inspected. And it's just like, what a hassle. How come we just can't put up a kid's play gym in the back if we want to, or build a shed or something like that, or have a garden, or maybe I want a little less grass because I'm so restricted on the amount of water I'm allowed to have. So instead of it dying all the time and then getting written up for having dead grass, maybe I use a little bit more mulch. Xeriscape wasn't allowed. For real. It is weird. I don't understand. But I realized as I'm looking around the neighborhood, like I said, it was a nice neighborhood, but it all started to seem like a facade to me. Like it wasn't real. It was just some sort of thin veneer that we all put on to make it look like this happy place. But really, we have no control. Like, we're told what we're allowed to have and what we're not allowed to have, even though I'm the one paying the mortgage on it. So I started to wake up a little bit. I kind of felt like on that movie, The Matrix. I realize how old that movie is now. There's probably some of you out there who have no idea what I'm talking about, and that makes me feel old. But in the movie The Matrix, where he wakes up from his pod and he looks around at all the other millions of other pods of people plugged in, and he's the only one awake. And kind of true to the movie, as soon as he wakes up and the system realizes it, they flush him out. That's kind of what happened with me. I started to realize that everything around me was a facade or a lie or some form of manipulation that's trying to control me, my actions, what I can do, what I can't do, trying to control how I spend my money, who I vote for, where I go, trying to control the things that I like, trying to manipulate me into liking something or not liking something, or thinking that a practice is appropriate, or that some sort of line of thinking is socially acceptable. And it doesn't matter what it is. You could be you can't even go to a gas station anymore without some sort of screen blaring ads at you the whole time that you can't turn it down, you can't turn it off. All you can do is go to another gas station. It's ridiculous. Billboards, TV shows, commercials, bumper stickers. It's all just some sort of form of control, and I'm just tired of it. Heaven forbid you want to go to the grocery store. I mean, every time I go to the store to buy some food, it's like I have to decipher all of the junk that's thrown at me. I mean, goodness gracious, you know what I'm talking about. Fat-free, gluten-free, sugar-free, light, diet, organic, fresh, original, classic, homestyle, GMO, free range, cruelty-free, conflict-free, all natural, locally grown. It's got electrolytes. It's what plants crave. I just want to buy a tomato without all the drama. Come on. Speaking of gardens, earlier I looked into getting one. Again, it's not like I wanted to do anything crazy, but I wasn't allowed to grow a garden in my front yard. It just wasn't allowed. I mean, my front yard was the bigger part of my property. That's where it made the most sense to do it. I was only allowed to do it in the backyard. But even if I did it in the backyard, it's like I had to worry about jumping through hoops. And then not to mention, what kind of attention it's going to attract from the neighbors. We all had privacy fences, yet somehow everybody knew everybody's business. Last thing I needed was some nosy neighbor to be like, I think he's growing something weird over there. First of all, it's Colorado. People can do that now. Last thing I need to do is justify my poor performing tomato plants to some city official that it's none of their business. And then if I wanted to make a tool shed, it's got to be to code. I can't just go build one. I have to buy it so that it has plans and it's been approved. Unless it's super small. I actually considered buying just a whole bunch of really small sheds or making them out of pallet wood under the minimum 100 square feet or 50 square feet or whatever it was, and then just putting them right next to each other just to, stick it to the man. But that's not practical, of course. It's like if I just wanted to build a shed on my own, then it's going to cost me a lot of money to do when it shouldn't have to. I just want to be able to do for myself, and I don't want it to be anybody else's business. I don't have anything to hide. It's just, why should I have to jump through the hoops for something that I own? I've got some family that lives out in the country, and not that anybody listens to me complain. Thanks, by the way. They would just be like, hey, we don't have any of that out here. This is the country. You can do whatever you want. Just don't be stupid, And I'm like, why am I here in the middle of the city? I've got a good job. It pays a lot. Got a pretty house. I mean, that's what I was paying for. I needed that job so that I could afford that really nice house. And there was nothing wrong with that. It was a good life. It's just, it was not self-directed. It was somebody else's life. It's like I had to sign my soul away to have that experience, and that's okay. I'm grateful for the opportunity. It's just, I want to choose your own adventure. I don't want something read to me. Anyway, so we kind of went all the way over to the other end of the spectrum. We decided, you know what? We're going to do this. We're going to do it all for ourselves. We're going to build something. It's going to be for us, and it's going to be the way that we want it. We don't want to be bothered. We don't want to be hassled. We don't want neighbors snooping over the fence. We don't want to have an argument with some sort of code person because there's too much mulch in our yard. Or maybe I want to grow a couple of plants in my front yard. That's nobody's business but mine. So there it is. We want a homestead. We want to do the whole prepper thing just in case so that we can grow our own food and we can do for ourselves. And that way it's ours. The work and the sweat that we put into it is for us, and it's nobody else's business. So there you go. That's it in a nutshell. Keep your eyes open.